When Thomas puffed along his branch line, he always looked forward to something special. The sight of the river. As he rumbled over the bridge, he would see people fishing. Thomas often wanted to stay and watch, but his driver said no. What would Sir Topham Hatt say if we were late? Every time he met another engine, he would say, "I want to fish." But they all had the same answer. "Engines don't go fishing." Silly stick in the muds, thought Thomas. One day, he stopped as usual to take in water at the station by the river. Out of order. "Bother," said Thomas. "I'm thirsty." "Never mind," said his driver. "We'll get some water from the river." They found a bucket and some rope and went to the bridge. Then the driver let the bucket down to the water. The bucket was old and had 5 holes, so they had to fill it, pull it up, and empty it into Thomas's tank as quickly as they could, several times over. They finished at last. That's good, puffed Thomas, and Annie and Clarabelle ran happily behind. Suddenly, Thomas began to feel a pain in his boiler. Steam began to hiss from his safety valve in an alarming way. "There's too much steam," said his driver. "Oh dear," groaned Thomas. "I'm going to burst. I'm going to burst." They damped down his fire and struggled on. "I've got such a pain, I've got such a pain," Thomas hissed. They stopped just outside the last station, uncoupled Annie and Clarabelle, and ran Thomas, who was still hissing fit to burst, on a siding right out of the way. Then, while the conductor telephoned for an engine inspector, the driver found notices in large letters which he hung on Thomas in front and behind. "Danger. Keep away." Soon the inspector and Sir Topham Hatt arrived. "Cheer up, Thomas," they said. "We'll soon put you right." The driver told them what had happened. "So the feed pipe is blocked," said the inspector. "I'll just look in the tanks." He climbed up and peered in. Then he came down. "Excuse me, sir. Please look in the tank and tell me what you see." "Certainly, Inspector," replied Sir Topham Hatt. He clambered up, looked in, and nearly fell off in surprise. "Inspector," he whispered, "can you see fish?" "Gracious goodness me! How did the fish get there, driver?" "We must have fished them from the river with our bucket," replied Thomas's driver. "Well, Thomas, so you and your driver have been fishing, but fish don't suit you. We must get them out." They all took turns at fishing in Thomas's tank, while Sir Topham Hatt looked on and told them how to do it. When they had caught all the fish, they had a lovely picnic supper of fish and chips. That was good," said Sir Topham Hatt. "But fish don't suit you, Thomas, so you mustn't do it again." "No, sir, I won't," said Thomas sadly. "Engines don't go fishing. It's too uncomfortable."
Go away, you fussy fly!
Bugs.
Botheration!
You weren't concentrating, Thomas. Lucky for you that the buffers were there.
That's what buffers are for, to stop engines from crashing. What are you doing in the sheds, James?
My wheels were feeling worn out with work, so Sir Topham Hatt told me to think about all the ways I can be a really useful engine. And when I have, I can come out again.
He's just trying to make this a better railway for steam engines. So
Thomas.
The harder we work, the less he'll need diesels to help.
Help you?
Oh. Oh.
You'll always need help. Because steam engines are cowardly, cranky, worn-out hunks of metal who couldn't hurt a fly.
No, we're not.
Yes, you are.
Aren't.
Are. Now, I've come back to find a lost steam engine.
What?
I'm gonna destroy her and dominate you. And then you'll be nothing but useless scrap. Right, Pinchy?
Big bully.
We're really useful engines. You won't dominate us, and you won't destroy her. We won't let you. Neither will Mr. Conductor. I'm off to fetch him now.
Who's her?
Aha! There's the blue puffball! And look who he's with! Splodge! Come and destroy!
No, you do it yourself.
We don't like you.
Yeah, we mean that.
Emphatically.
Yeah, what does that mean?
I have no idea.
It's a good word.
Run, lady, quickly, and I'm going to help you.
So am I, milady. I'll not let you down again.
Ah, who needs you, Splodge?
Watch out for the viaduct. It's dangerous.
What's the matter?
Lady. That engine's name is Lady. She's part of the clue to the source of the gold dust.
Now I'll get you, Burnett Stone!
No, you won't, because the magic you refuse to believe in will get the better of you.
You can run, but you can't hide! Right, Pinchy? Pinchy's hungry!
Get back!
Come on, lady.
Coming, Puffball! Look out! Here I come! Duck, Pinchy! I like my lunch steam! Pretty fast for a puffball.
Well, lady, this is your shining time, too.
I hope so. Come on, lady. Little engines can do big things.
Well done, Thomas. Well done.
What's going on? Whoa, hold it! Puffball! Teapot! Tin Kettle! Oh, well. Nice time of the year for a cruise.
Thomas the Tank Engine wouldn't stop being a nuisance. Night after night, he kept the other engines awake.
I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world.
The other engines didn't take much notice, for Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue. But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. "I've got some trucks to take home tomorrow. If you take them instead of me, I'll push coaches in the yard,
Thank you.
said Thomas.
That will be nice.
Next morning, Edward and Thomas asked their drivers, and when they said yes, Thomas ran off happily to find trucks. Now, trucks are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. And I'm sorry to say they play tricks on an engine who is not used to them. Edward knew all about trucks. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. The shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The guard blew his whistle, beep, beep, answered Thomas, and started off. But the trucks weren't ready.
Oh!
They screamed,
Wait, Thomas, wait!
But Thomas wouldn't wait.
Come on, come on!
He puffed. All right,
don't fuss. All right, don't fuss.
Grumbled the trucks. Thomas began going faster and faster.
Whee!
He whistled as he rushed through Henry's tunnel.
Hurry, hurry!
Called Thomas. He was feeling very proud of himself, but the trucks grew crosser and crosser. At last, Thomas slowed down as he came to Gordon's Hill. Steady now, steady, warned the driver as they reached the top. He began to put on the brakes.
We're stopping,
Called Thomas.
No!
Answered the trucks, bumping into each other.
Go on!
Before the driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind him. Poor Thomas tried hard to stop them from making him go too fast.
Stop pushing! Stop pushing!
He hissed, but the trucks took no notice.
Go on!
They giggled in their silly way.
There's the station. Oh dear, what shall I do?
He cried. They rattled straight through and swerved into the goods yard. Thomas shut his eyes.
I must stop.
When he opened his eyes, he saw he had stopped just in front of the buffers. There watching him was the fat controller.
What are you doing here, Thomas? He asked. I've brought Edward's freight cars.
Thomas answered.
Why did you come so fast? I didn't mean to. I was pushed,
said Thomas.
You've got a lot to learn about freight cars, Thomas. After pushing them about here for a few weeks, you'll know almost as much about them as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine. At the next station was a sign. All trains must wash down daily. James had just finished being cleaned. Come on, Gordon, said his driver. You'll feel better, too, after a good hose down. Bah, said Gordon, and angrily let off steam. You're a very naughty engine, said Gordon's driver. Now James will need another shower. You'll have to wait your turn till later. Good riddance, huffed Gordon. I'm far too busy to waste time with water.
I'm Mr. Conductor, and I'm going to tell you a story about trains, folks far apart, and the magic railroad that brought them together. Every story, like a railroad, has its heroes. Meet Thomas. He's our #1 hero.
Hello!
But he's running a little late today. This is the island of Sodor, where Thomas and his friends live. It's at one end of my special universe.
Hello, Thomas! Hello, James! Hello, Perry! Hey, wait up!
I like helping out here. By the invitation of Sir Topham Hatt, of course.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Who do we appreciate? Practicing your numbers, Gordon. That's a good engine.
I'm counting how many seconds late you are. What does that sign say?
Sodor Railway. Really reliable and right on time. Signed, head of the railway, Sir Topham Hatt.
But you weren't on time, little Thomas.
And you're being bossy, Gordon. Now, please excuse me. I'm meeting Mr. Conductor. He's looking after us while Sir Topham Hatt takes a much-needed holiday.
I think we can take care of ourselves. Get out of my way! I have unfinished business here, and I want to finish it fast!
The Diesel 10's back.
Yes, 10 out of 10 for devious deeds and brutal strength. The blast from the past, who hates steam engines.
Maybe we do need Mr. Conductor here after all. On time.
Thomas is a tank engine who lives at a big station on the island of Sodor. He's a cheeky little engine with 6 small wheels, a short stumpy funnel, a short stumpy boiler, and a short stumpy dome. He's a fussy little engine, too, always pulling coaches about, ready for the big engines to take on long journeys. And when trains come in, he pulls the empty coaches away so that the big engines can go and rest. Thomas thinks no engine works as hard as he does. He loves playing tricks on them, including Gordon, the biggest and proudest engine of all. Thomas likes to tease Gordon with his whistle. Wake up, lazy bones. Why don't you work hard like me? One day, after pulling the big express, Gordon had arrived back at the sidings very tired. He was just going to sleep when Thomas came up in his cheeky way. Wake up, lazy bones. Do some hard work for a change. You can't catch me. And off he ran, laughing. Instead of going to sleep again, Gordon thought how he could get back at Thomas. One morning, Thomas wouldn't wake up. His driver and fireman couldn't make him start. His fire went out and there was not enough steam. It was nearly time for the express. People were waiting, but the coaches weren't ready. At last, Thomas started. Oh dear, he yawned. He fussed into the station where Gordon was waiting. Hurry up, you, said Gordon. Hurry up yourself, replied Thomas. Gordon, the proud engine, began making his plan to teach Thomas a lesson for teasing him. Almost before the coaches had stopped moving, Gordon reversed quickly and was coupled to the train. Get in quickly, please, he whistled. Thomas usually pushed behind the big trains to help them start, but he was always uncoupled first. This time, Gordon started so quickly they forgot to uncouple Thomas. Gordon's chance had come. Come on, puffed Gordon to the coaches. The train went faster and faster. Too fast for Thomas. He wanted to stop, but he couldn't. Beep, beep. Stop, stop. Hurry, 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 laughed Gordon. You can't get away, you can't get away, laughed the coaches. Poor Thomas was going faster than he had ever gone before. He was out of breath and his wheels hurt him, but he had to go on. I shall never be the same again, he thought sadly. My wheels will be quite worn out. At last, they stopped at a station. Thomas was uncoupled and he felt very silly and exhausted. Next, he went onto a turntable, thinking of everyone laughing at him. And then he ran onto a siding out of the way. "Well, little Thomas," chuckled Gordon, "now you know what hard work means, don't you?" Poor Thomas couldn't answer. He had no breath. He just puffed slowly away to rest and had a long, long drink. Maybe I don't have to tease Gordon to feel important, Thomas thought to himself, and he puffed slowly home.
Diesel was in a dump, but the steam engines were still right on track.
It's a really useful engine, you know. All the other engines, they'll tell you so. He huffs and puffs and whistles, rushing to and fro. He's the really useful engine we adore. It's a really useful engine, you know. That controller, he told him so. Now he's got a brochure to call his very own. He's a really useful engine we adore. He's the one, he's the number one. Thomas the Tank Engine. He's the really useful engine we adore.
Morning, Henry. What's the matter?
I've got boiler ache.
And I'm collecting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trucks of special Island of Sodor coal for you.
Oh, thank you, Thomas. Special coal will make me feel much better.
But I wish I could make Mr. Conductor feel better, too, by finding him. Oh.
Hello, Thomas, and your 5 coal trucks.
5? But I'm supposed to have 6.
Nothing bad ever happens to the Kennedys!
And every year, on the date of the accident, it runs again as a warning to others, plunging into the gap, shrieking like a lost soul. Percy, what are you talking about? The ghost train. Drivers saw it last night. Where? Asked Thomas and Toby. He didn't say. Oh, it makes my wheels wobble to think of it. Puh, said Thomas. You're just a silly little engine. I'm not scared. Thomas didn't believe in your ghost, said Percy next morning. His driver laughed. Neither do I. It was only a pretend ghost story. Percy was disappointed. That evening, he came back from the harbor. Percy knew where he was, even in the dark. Crow's Farm Crossing. We shan't be long now. He liked running at night. The rails hummed and the signal light shone green. But a broken cartload of lime lay ahead. Sam the farmer had just gone for help. Percy broke the cart to smithereens. Lime flew everywhere. He puffed quickly to the nearest signal box. Percy's driver explained what had happened. "I'll see to it," said the signalman. "But you'd better clean Percy, or people will think he's a ghost." Percy chuckled. "Do let's pretend I'm a ghost and scare Thomas. That'll teach him to say I'm a silly little engine." Toby promised to help. Thomas was being oiled up for his evening train. "Percy's had an accident," cried Toby. "Poor engine," said Thomas. "Botheration! That means I'll be late. They've cleared the line for you, but there's something worse." "Out with it, Toby. I can't wait all evening." "I just seen something," said Toby. It looked like Percy's ghost. It said it was coming here to warn us." "Pooh, who cares? Don't be frightened, Toby. I'll take care of you."
Let me in! Let me in!
Wailed Percy. "No, no, not by the smoke on my chimney, chim.
I'll chuff and I'll puff and I'll break your door in!"
"Oh, dear," exclaimed Thomas. "It's getting late. Oh, I'd no idea. Oh, I must find Annie and Clarabelle." It was morning when Thomas returned. "Where have you been?" asked Toby. Well," said Thomas, "I knew you'd be sad about Percy, and I didn't like to intrude. I slept in the freight shed and..." "Oh, sorry, can't stop. Gotta see a coach about a train." Percy was none the worse for his adventure and was still enjoying himself enormously. He had heard everything. Well, what do you know about that?" "Anyone would think," chuckled Toby, "that our Thomas had just seen a ghost."
Totally insane.
Welcome, study!
It was Christmas on the island of Sodor. All the engines were working hard. Thomas and Toby were busy carrying people and parcels up and down the branch line. Everyone was happy. Only the coaches, Annie and Clarabelle, were complaining. "It's always the same before Christmas," they groaned. "We feel so full. We feel so full." "Oh, come on," said Thomas. "Where's your festive spirit? Christmas Day is almost here." By the side of the track was a little cottage with a familiar figure waving to them. "It's Mrs. Kindly," whistled Thomas. "Beep, beep! Happy Christmas!" Thomas always felt better for seeing her. "Christmas just wouldn't be Christmas without Mrs. Kindly," he said to himself. When work was over, Thomas went to see the other engines. All their coats had been polished. "Huh," said Gordon. "Just look at us. Your driver will have to work fast to get you as smart as us." "Never mind that," replied Thomas. "I've something important to say. Do you realize it's been a whole year since Mrs. Kindly saved us from a nasty accident? You remember when she was ill in bed and..." "Yes, of course," interrupted Edward. "You told us how she waved her red dressing gown out of her window to warn you about a landslide ahead." "And you and Toby gave her presents?" Percy joined in. "And Sir Topham Hatt sent her to the seaside to get better." "But," said the other engines, "the rest of us never thanked her properly." "Exactly," said Thomas. "So now I think we should all give her a special Christmas party." Everyone was getting very excited, and the drivers felt sure that Sir Topham Hatt would agree, as indeed he did. The engines were all busy making plans when silence fell. Sir Topham Hatt had bad news. The weather's changed badly. Mrs. Kindly is snowed up. Toby says he'll help to rescue her. You must help too, Thomas. There's no party unless you do. Thomas hated snow, but he said bravely, "I'll try, sir. We must rescue her. We must." "There's a good engine. You and Toby will manage splendidly." Thomas charged the snowdrifts fiercely. Sometimes he swept them aside, sometimes they stuck fast, and the men had to loosen them. But at the cutting near the cottage, they could go no further. "Look at that!" exclaimed Thomas's fireman. "Beep, beep! Here we are!" An answering wave came from an upstairs window. Then they heard a familiar sound. "That's Terence, the tractor," said Thomas. "He's come to help too." Sure enough, Terence had a snowplow and was working hard to clear a patch to the railroad line and safety. At long last, the rescue was complete. Percy took the tired workmen home. Terence said goodbye to Mrs. Kindly and promised to take care of her cottage as he watched them all set off. The engines made good time. No more snow had fallen, but the yard was dark. There was no one to be seen. Thomas's heart sank. Suddenly, all the lights went on. What a marvelous sight awaited Mrs. Kindly. "Well done," said Sir Topham Hatt. "I'm really proud of you all." Mrs. Kindly especially thanked the smaller engines. "Thomas and Toby are old friends," she said. "And now, Percy, you are my friend too." Percy was very pleased. "3 cheers for Mrs. Kindly," he called. "Beep, beep, beep." They all whistled. "We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year." Thomas the Tank Engine and his friends thought it was the best Christmas ever, and Mrs. Kindly could think of nowhere she would rather live than here with them on the island of Sodor.
So who dropped the ball then? Oh, there you are. I'd like to have a nice cup of hot cocoa. Would you fellas care to join me? No? What would you rather do instead? Go outside and play? Well, I can understand that. What do you think? Why do you keep hitting him like that? You're gonna have a timeout. Just a little sweeter, I think.
All right, Pinchy, my little bucket of badness. Time to feast yourself.
Now that's better.
Cinders and ashes, it's Diesel!
Diesel, oh no! Hello, Twinkle Toes. I got a plan, and you're not in it.
You can't catch me, Diesel.
Losing your sparkle, huh? What perfect timing. Now, where is that lost engine?
You won't find her here.
You're not clever enough to stop me.
Oh, yes, I am.
No, you're not. What is that?
That's right. It's sugar, Diesel. And if I throw this in your tank, it'll seize you up for good.
Make the most of tonight, Twinkle Toes, because you won't like tomorrow. Neither will that line of tin kettles.
Mr. Conductor, but what happened to your sparkle?
I don't know, Thomas. I'll just have to sleep on that.
On your sparkle?
No, Thomas. On the problem of what happened to him.
Oh, but Mr. Conductor, without your sparkle or the lost engine, you can't travel here to help us anymore.
I'll solve the problem. You just go to sleep now.
Easy for you to say.
And so we've come to the happy end of our story. And it's time for all of us to go home. Just like Thomas.